If you're like most people, you may have thought about ways that you can lower your electrical energy bill. I mean, who wants to pay more when you don't have to? My name is Bill Caruso, and I'll tell you that I had these thoughts myself in years past. And about 5 years ago, I set the talent that I gained in over 35 years of engineering to the task of using my electricity as economically as possible without sacrificing a comfortable lifestyle. Now, naturally, I started with simple things like using low-energy light bulbs and sealing air leaks around my doors and windows. But I knew there was something more that I could be doing that would make better economic sense. I then did what many people do when considering ways to save energy. I bought solar panels. Now, this was not the worst idea I ever had, but it definitely wasn't the greatest either. Since I lived in Dallas, Texas, where temperatures typically exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 months out of the year, my 330 square foot home required a whopping $200 a month to keep cool. Well, I bought my panels at an auction and all of the electronics and batteries to go with it. The experimental system I put together would normally cost around $10,000, and it couldn't provide power for everything in my home, but it kept an air conditioner going throughout the day. So it seems like I had free energy, right? Well, not really. If I had expanded the solar energy system to cover everything in my home, I would have needed about $20,000. And it occurred to me that if I was going to use $20,000 to buy a solar electricity system, I could just as easily invest the $20,000 in the stock market, and I could draw out about $167 every 30 days to pay my average monthly electricity bill. And I could do that for 20 years. And that's what $20,000 can do. What's more, whereas solar panels can catch fire, they can cause roof damage, they can cause insurance to go up, they can have hail damage that ruins them. Worst of all, they lower your home reselling value. Nobody wants to buy a house with solar panels on top of them. They don't know what to do with them. These things, not to mention that, they require about $500 every 3 years for battery replacements. So it was obvious that solar energy was actually more expensive than the power from the power company. There were other problems with the legalities of the solar electric power in regards to zoning laws in my city and in regards to liabilities if it were hooked into the power grid. So I eventually sold my system to a friend who lived in a beautiful home in the country where photovoltaic collection farms made perfect sense. Definitely such a system didn't belong in the city where I lived. Besides solar power, I also tried out wind power, but I found that unless the wind was blowing at more than maybe 4 miles an hour most of the time, no significant power could be generated to justify the cost of putting up a turbine. Like solar power, you'd want to live somewhere on a prairie or on a farm somewhere if you wanted to try out wind power. And so I thought of insulating my home better than it was, and I found that my home was insulated just fine, as are most of the houses built after the 1970s. After all, they have standards, for building houses after that time. There was no point in wasting money on more insulation for my home. It just didn't make sense. I thought of another thing. Maybe I could replace windows with windows that have the lower heat conduction. I'd heard advertisements on the radio about that all the time. But like the solar power plan, I figured out I could just invest the money that I would be paying for the new windows. I could invest it into the stock market and pay the extra cost of my electricity for my home. So as it turns out, most of the money you save on these low-loss windows have more to do with your original windows needing better caulking than anything else. Rather than replacing the windows, I paid $5 for some caulking around the windowsills and door jambs, and I got exactly the same effect as putting in new windows. I tried swamp coolers. Swamp coolers didn't cut it, as Dallas has very high humidity, so swamp coolers didn't work very well. So how about my provider? I tried switching electricity providers. No significant avail. It didn't make much of a difference at all. And changing providers helped somewhat, but not as much as I had hoped. So I knew there had to be something out there. Out of desperation, I even entertained the idea of buying one of those bundles of wires that supposedly ran on perpetual motion, breaking all the rules of thermodynamics. What was I thinking? Hey, I was really running out of ideas. I thought about some of my friends who drove themselves and their families crazy through attempts to live frugally, constantly yelling at anyone who left the front door open too long or accidentally left the lights on. I didn't want to turn into that. So screaming day and night and having thermostat wars with your loved ones is definitely a way to save on electrical energy, but at what cost? No, that was not an option in my opinion. So I considered changing my air conditioner out for a new one. After all, that's what all the air conditioning salesmen told me to do. But that didn't make financial sense. After all, the amount that I would need to pay for a new system could be invested in the stock market, and the return would more than pay for the extra electricity I was using. So that wasn't such a smart idea either. I considered installing an attic fan, but I heard some issues with those fans sucking the cool air out of the house and into the attic if they weren't properly installed. So besides, the turbines that were already installed on my roof kept the summer temperatures down to about 130 degrees in my roof, which wasn't so bad. I mean, my ceiling temperatures were sufficiently cool without adding the attic fan. So I offer these alternatives to you, these 10 things that didn't work for me and probably won't work for you in terms of bringing savings that you want on your electricity bill. But what about the things that would work to save money? I mean, I was sure that there could be something I could find for doing this. As I said, I was running out of ideas until I turned to some systems of thinking that I had learned when I was working at Motorola regarding lean manufacturing methods. These are methods to eliminate waste in manufacturing. And it was the lean manufacturing that took Toyota from a hopeless company in the 1950s to the giant they became in the 1980s. And to this day, of course, you know that Toyota is still setting the standard for other car manufacturers. Well, armed with this knowledge, I began by methodically mapping out exactly when and where I needed electrical power during the week. Looking at the data over a few months, I began to see patterns. And as an engineer heavily involved in applying statistics to systems, this was my natural approach to solving tough problems, and it paid off tremendously. So one night I was working on this, and the solution just jumped right out of the numbers, right onto my desk. It was obvious. If I figured out that if I could only buy electricity intelligently, store it, and then use it intelligently to match sensible usage patterns and sales patterns, I could significantly save on my power bills. And we're not talking that 20 or 30% that you get from insulating your house or swapping out an appliance. No, I was seeing numbers like 80 to 90% savings. It didn't seem sensible. It didn't seem right. I mean, I have to admit that I had to check and recheck my figures because I myself didn't believe them at all, that they could be this way, but they were 100% the same every single time. I was seeing savings of 80 and 90% on my electricity bill. So the solution was simple, but it would take me about 3 years to try out each aspect of my plan in my own home before I sifted out the best changes that were inexpensive and easy for most people to do. I actually ended up quitting my regular job at Texas Instruments to pursue this quest and to complete maybe about 10 other projects that I had wondered about all my life. The results were fascinating. From $200 a month for cooling my home, a large home that I bought in the 1990s, I dropped my utility bills to under $50 a month. Here's a recent bill from August. It's just $26. Here's a couple more bills. I'm telling you, this thing worked. As it turns out, this investigation has turned into something that anyone can easily and inexpensively do, and it involves no gimmicks or funny stuff. It just involves flat out math and logic. Now, this methodology worked out so well that something I didn't expect to happen did happen, and that is that I created an organization called Live Green and Blue, whose mission is to help people live comfortably efficient. Not just efficient, but comfortably efficient. I found that a $200 trip down to the hardware store and maybe about another $200 to an electrician will get you to where I was. You'll end up needing about 4 hours of your own time to record some numbers for you and me to go over to find an optimal solution to your electrical demand and place where you live. I have about 6 specific strategies that you can use to lower your electricity bill. And after we see your electricity usage patterns, we can choose the best strategy. Although my electric bill is ridiculously low, I'm continuing to experiment with lowering it further, and I have a few unconventional ideas I'm experimenting with right now, in fact. In the meantime, I'd like to invite you to come with me on this journey that I started. It's good for the earth, and it's also good for your bank account. Normally, I ask for a one-time charge of $199 to teach people how to compress my years of research into a workable plan that they can put together in a few weeks, implementing only the actions that saved energies and eliminating the time and expense for the failed experiments that I had over the 5 years that I've been researching this. Comparing this to the stock market in a good year, by the way, once again, if your monthly electric bill were $100 and if you were to save only 20% from each of your monthly bills, we would more than double the 8% stock market return, except that our return would be tax-free. You don't have to pay for taxes on money that you save from being economically efficient with your energy spending. It really makes better sense to save expenses sometimes than it does to try to gain income. Energy cost is a good example of that. So here's a little bit of math. $199 you spend learning these techniques need to return to you $239 by the end of 5 years in order for you to consider this to be a worthwhile investment, comparing it to the stock market, of course. This amounts to about $8 a month, which we will easily beat if you're spending more than $100 a month right now on your electricity bill. This I can guarantee you. Just a little more math. If you're spending $100 on your energy bills, and we can pull your electrical bills as low as mine, you'll have this course paid for in less than 3 months, in fact. This is actually a sweet deal. I offer it because I'm interested in getting as many people involved as possible right now. I'd like to make it an even sweeter deal for you by offering 2 things on this video. Number 1, I offer a 100% money-back guarantee if you're not able to save at least 20% on your electrical bills after you put my ideas in place. I am that sure that this works. I mean, the numbers and the mathematics, the engineering, the physics, they all tell me so. Number 2, for the duration of this seminar, I'm actually going to lower the membership price to $149 for the entire course. Now, outside of this video, the price is $199 per person, so definitely click on the button on this page to join us in our ongoing energy-saving lessons. We have a Facebook page where our participants gather to discuss ideas that work and some that don't work so well, where you can go to brag about the money that you're saving. I regularly go there myself to ask some questions, to answer questions, and to make comments on other people's posts. Hey, we're all learning this stuff together, and believe it or not, I learn from you as much as you might learn from me. So this is all included in the cost of your one-time membership payment. And one more thing. There's a line in the application where we ask what member referred you to the course. Please be sure to put the name of the member who referred you in that line so that we can send them $5 as our way of saying thank you. Of course, we offer this $5 to you as well. So long as you've paid your one-time $149 membership, we will send you $5 every time we see your name appear on the membership application, and that person stays with the program for at least 6 months. Imagine you could get this course for free if you referred 30 people. And this isn't a pyramid scheme. It's just our way of saying thank you for the referral. That's all. By the way, if you want to refer people to us using banner ads or some other form of mass marketing, I don't understand this stuff, but maybe you can find ways to find lots of people. That's fine with us. We'll certainly pay you $5 for every time they put you or your agency on that line. But we do ask that you let us see these ads that you're going to put out so that we can eliminate potential mistaken advertising. Okay, we'll work with you on this for sure. So what can you expect from this course? Well, we want you to be educated on the economics and technical aspects of energy usage. And we want this education to be as simple and as direct as possible. And we do this using 8 short videos that you can watch and rewatch at your convenience. We're always making presentations, and we're up to 8 right now that are in production. You don't need to be a mathematician or an engineer to understand this stuff, by the way. From time to time, I throw in a little math for those of you who like it. But I always warn you ahead of time whether you really need to understand those parts. My goal is to educate you and entice you into action and to somewhat entertain you as you learn these techniques that will save you thousands over the years. I want this to be the best $149 you ever spent in your life. Now here's a little bit of details about what we talk about in the 8 webinars. First one we have the initial home assessment that I've been talking about. You actually are beginning that now as you begin to measure and record the electricity that you're using with your appliances. We have a spreadsheet here, and as you make each entry into the spreadsheet that I have for you to download, you're completing this step. In the actual course, you go a little further into this assessment, and we consider how you might modify your demand to fit your electricity provider's plan for providing the energy. Now, in the next video, we perform a hot water assessment together. Now, heating water takes up a lot of power usage, and there's some things you can easily do to stop spending unnecessarily there. In the next video, we do a finalized home assessment, complete with looking at some energy waste areas where you can eliminate for about $10 in a couple hours of your time. Once the final assessment and hot water are brought under control, we look for ways that you can refrigerate and preserve your food. There's so much to talk about here, and it is surprising how much energy your refrigerator uses. You can cut that down significantly, by the way. In the next video, we talk about the other side of refrigeration, and that's the heating of your home and the cooking of your food. We cover that in the next module. So much to say about that. So what you'll find is a theme that goes throughout this entire program. It's key to modifying your usage demand schedule, and it's your ability to store energy. And while this sounds complex, I have some simple methods that don't involve expensive or technically complex solutions. In fact, you can store tons of energy for just a few pennies if you know how. And that's what we teach you. Additionally, there are a few tips I have for you on gathering energy from some often ignored sources that I offer in this module. I also have bonus material that I think you'll like on inexpensive home automation. There's this technological movement underway regarding something called the Internet of Things. It's often abbreviated as IoT. And you knew this had to happen eventually. Everything in your home is soon going to have an internet IP address. And in fact, you'll be able to communicate with them when you're on the road. While there are now expensive hubs and software that are coming out for those of you who want to be the early adopters, there are also much less expensive methods for you to use to communicate with your appliances. And you can communicate with them using your smartphone remotely. We show you how to begin this and how you can begin to save tons of energy in your home. Now there's an extra bonus module that I call the Physics and Economics of Energy Improvement. In my opinion, it's the most important module at all. This is for the math nerd in all of us. We'll talk here about some very simple physics of energy and equally important some concepts in finance that will not only help you to think about energy economically, but it'll also help you with other decisions regarding investments and loans and when to buy something new, when to do it yourself, and most other decisions that involve money, time, and resources. Really, this module alone will help you make or retain thousands of dollars throughout your lifetime. I think you'll like this module a lot, especially if you found physics and math to be difficult in the past. We make it a little bit easier and a little bit more entertaining. You'll find this module to be extremely helpful. In addition to the webinars, we have a private Facebook page with people like you and me who are trying to figure out new ideas to save on energy. Most of the ideas involve electrical energy, but I also have no problem with threads that involve other subjects like food preservations, do-it-yourself energy audit techniques, simple home automation, complex home automation, Internet of Things, of course, and there's even some interesting things that some of our prepper contingent sometimes weighs in on. They're always fun to have input from. Hey, it's a fun group to be sure, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. The first thing you'll do after joining is to begin a cursory home electrical energy audit. And to do this accurately, I have a spreadsheet for you to fill out. You just download it here. And you may want to use some tools that we loan out to our members. So an example of a tool that we loan out to our members is this thing called the kilowatt meter. Here's one. And look at this thing. It's a wonderful tool. It is used to measure the power draw of appliances that you use. And it's really easy for you to use. You plug this into the wall, and you plug your appliance into this side right here. And then you read the power right off of this LCD screen. And it's very simple to use. And you'll want to use one of these when you assess the appliances in your home, which is an exercise that I give you in our workbook for you to start out, of course. For now, you don't have the kilowatt meter, but you can use the UL stickers in your appliances to determine your electrical loads around the house. It's not a perfect way to determine it, but this is much more accurate. But go ahead and use the UL stickers for right now. So our members can borrow the kilowatt meter, and these really cool thermal loggers from us. And it only costs a member postage and a small wear and tear fee of a couple bucks a day to borrow all these things. The temperature loggers, you're going to want to use about 5 of them at a time. And they're absolutely amazing. They continuously gather temperature information about once every 2 minutes. You put them wherever you need to record temperatures, in your rooms, in the attic, in your refrigerator, outdoors, wherever. And then you send it back to us, and we'll download the data and send it to you. And it's as simple as that. You'll get it in an Excel spreadsheet. Altogether, the kilowatt meter and the temperature loggers would cost you about $140 in addition to the postage that you would have to pay. As members of our group, we can send these to you for only a few bucks. And since you seldom use them, there's no point in you paying for these things and to have them sitting around your home all the time. Additionally, you may want to perform an informal energy audit on your house, and we can help you rent the right equipment for that, rather than just spending $400 to $500 for this service from a professional auditing service. Our equipment loan program itself will cover much of your enrollment costs all right off the bat. Well, I need just a few more minutes of your time, so there's still a little time for you to join our groups. So be sure to continue enjoying this video, but don't forget to join us before we're done. We have lots more videos for you to watch that will help you cut your energy down to the levels that I have brought my home down to. You see, we take a systems approach in engineering for an optimal solution for you. It starts with assessing where your demand is now, where your electrical demand is, matching that demand schedule with several electrical plants in your area, making some slight modifications to your usage patterns, and then putting the plan into action, and then monitoring your progress. This is a standard pattern in solving engineering issues that's used at most successful major organizations, and you will love the results. Okay, so I'm about to wrap things up, and by now I think you can see the tremendous value that we offer to you in this course. You get 8 wonderful lessons on cutting your energy costs, in which you learn how to assess your current energy consumption patterns and what to do to satisfy them economically. You'll have access to several different tools and instruments needed to assess your energy demand. And you'll have access to our exclusive Facebook page where you can trade ideas with energy savers like yourself, where we have periodic podcasts and webinars where we get together to talk about your successes and questions. So I look forward to seeing you in our webinars. Now, so of course you know that I've pre-recorded this message, but I've included a link below where you can send in your questions. We're generally able to answer your questions within about 4 business hours, by the way. So click on the link below to sign up, and I look forward to seeing you in our first module today. So take care, everyone, and remember to live green and blue.